The oldest operating amusement park in the world is Bakken, just north of Copenhagen, Denmark. A fact that it proudly pronounces on all of its marketing material since its opening in 1583. But it very specifically uses that term, amusement park. I haven't yet had the pleasure of visiting Bakken, but a virtual tour via Google Maps shows highly thematic buildings and rides that tread the line between whimsical and haunting like only Northern Europe can. Yet any attempt to research the first theme park brings up results for Disneyland, California. Was no one doing amusement parks with themed areas before 1955? Is a theme park simply an amusement park with some more money spent on it? Has the once black and white differences between amusement parks and theme parks become a grey area, or have the terms always been interchangeable? The term theme park is actually a proprietary eponym, which is just a fancy way of saying a term developed by a brand that has since entered the public lexicon. Much like jacuzzis, tannoys, escalators and trampolines, theme park was originally a term used by Disney to describe the difference between its amusement park, that had a much higher focus on the narrative and feel of the areas that it created, and the more traditional static fare that it was competing with. But by their own definition of a park that is fully immersed its rides and attractions in an overarching theme, they were beaten to the punch by almost a decade in a small town in Indiana with a very famous name. Allegedly named by a child in a town meeting when the local post office was unable to use Santa Fe as its official name, Santa Claus is an unassuming town in southern Indiana with a population of less than 3,000, but it is kept busy answering thousands of letters from young children to the big man himself and welcoming over 1 million visitors annually to Holiday World, a theme park with areas dedicated to the 4th of July, Halloween, and of course, Christmas. It became Holiday World in 1984 with the addition of the non-festive lands, but for 30 years before, it was simply Santa Claus Land, built by Louis J. Koch, a retired industrialist who was upset that children would visit the town and leave disappointed that it wasn't the actual home of Kris Kringle. Every ride, shop, restaurant and play area inside was themed with fake snow, gumdrops, candy canes and sugar plums, making it perhaps the world's first true theme park. The park today is still owned and operated by the Koch family and is home to the Voyage, considered by many to be one of the best wooden roller coasters in the world. Today, it's difficult to argue that any amusement park outside of travelling fairs aren't in part theme parks. Universal, who originally built backlot-style parks with loose theming, now create incredibly immersive worlds that rival, and some would argue beat, their closest competitor Disney. Even traditionally lower-themed parks such as Six Flags often have themed areas or rides now. Perhaps it's never been truly possible to have two neat boxes to categorise every park out there, and perhaps it isn't really necessary. As long as each park provides a fun environment for its guests, it doesn't really matter which box it fits in. But I sure know which box is MeanderVille's. Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to MeanderVille, Part 2. Today we're going to be taking a look at the themes of MeanderVille, their inspirations, and even the beginnings of some of them. For those of you who saw part 1 and this carousel build, which is very much inspired by the Constellation Carousel at Epic Universe, you'll know that MeanderVille is going to be a very highly themed park. The circular motifs and sacred geometry is something that I want to run throughout the park, but I want it to be most noticeable in the main street. It's continued here in Sebastian Vale's Conservatory. One of my big inspirations for the main street of this park is Tivoli. As well as some incredible rides and beautiful gardens, Tivoli has a number of pretty impressive restaurants, with people entering the park often just to soak up the atmosphere and grab some dinner. And I love the idea of focusing on lots more food options in MeanderVille than I have done in other parks, including this, the conservatory, that in the lore of MeanderVille is a sort of higher budget chain of restaurants made famous by a celebrity chef. They even put out a press release. As work continues on the hotly awaited MeanderVille theme park opening later this year, new photos have emerged showing a new fine dining restaurant that will reside within its gates. Gone are the days of sugary snacks being the fuel for an adrenaline junkie's day. Following in the footsteps of Tivoli Gardens and other European theme parks, MeanderVille is focused on providing high-quality meals that delight the senses alongside its thrilling attractions. We are breaking the mold here. We all love a hot dog or a funnel cake, but they don't have to be the only option. We are working closely with MeanderVille to create a fantastically vibrant palette that mirrors the rich world of adventure and discovery the park has to offer. This will be something special, and I can't wait to welcome guests, says executive chef and TV personality Sebastian Vale. Pre-booking is now available for tables at the conservatory. There is an 18-month waitlist. The main street will be littered with food options like sit-down restaurants such as this, and also this boulangerie-pâtisserie. I'm not necessarily saying that this park is in France. These words are often used to describe upper market establishments that sell pastries. I've wanted to build a fancy little Parisian bakery for quite a while now, and I saw Drivit's awesome cakes shared on Bronation, and that was the last sort of deciding factor I needed to go and start working on this. It's loosely based on this bakery that I think is actually in Paris, and I'm actually really happy how it's turned out. I wanted to show you the time lapse here because, well, you guys like time lapses, but also I wanted to talk a little bit about the importance of having a separate pair of eyes sometimes take a look at things, and the importance of being in a community of like-minded players. I'm a member of the Bronation Discord and have been for many years now, set up by Mike and John, better known as Bro Coaster, who did a fantastic series in Planet Coaster 1. It is filled with incredible creative players for Planet Coaster, Planet Zoo, and other creative games as well. There is a bit of a focus towards more realistic builds, but a lot of different stuff is shared over there. And not only is it an incredible way to get some really fantastic inspiration, it's also perfect just for seeing clever uses of pieces in the game or figuring out what the game is really capable of. I could have sat and put together some cakes using art shapes, but I don't think I'd have gone to the level of detail that Drivit did with these ones here, but luckily they were shared on Bronation. And also when this building was complete, I posted up saying I wasn't quite happy with it, feeling like it wasn't quite popping how I wanted it to. And then lots of the incredible members of Bronation pointed out that it probably just needed another pass with a little bit more detailing and a little bit more trim. One thing I've noticed when building from a reference image in Planet Coaster is often you do need to make the building a little bit more detailed than it is in real life. I'm not sure why, but if you build a building verbatim from real life into Planet Coaster, it can often look a little plain. So sometimes going in and over-detailing, for want of a better word, is what's needed to really make the building feel grounded and finished. I don't know if you can tell from the time lapse, but here's a before picture, and after having a few people have a look at it and offer their advice, this is what it looks like now. A subtle difference overall, but I really think it makes the building pop and fit perfectly into the main street. Thanks again, Drivit, for the awesome cakes. I'll put a link to the workshop item in the description of this video. Time for another ride and the beautiful chair swing. This will most likely be the first ride you see as you enter the park, and most likely will be visible from the street and from the parking lot. I knew this ride was going to end up in the park. It's one of my favourites. I think these things just look beautiful and so kinetic when they're going, but it was seeing this concept art from an Up-themed one that's opening in, I believe, Disneyland Paris that really made me start working on it. I also wanted to have a go at trying to hide the footprint of the ride. I'm not sure if I've done a great job of that really, because I've ended up making it much more ostentatious, almost like it's sitting on a little mountain here. But again, this is most likely the first thing you're going to see, so I wanted to carry on that niche, that flower bed work that Mike helped us with in episode 1 around the carousel, bringing that over to here. This level of planting will certainly not carry on throughout the park, because even though the park has a high budget, this sort of stuff is incredibly costly and timely to look after. But as the first thing you see as you come in, I actually think it's quite pretty. I have a little bit of work to do here, namely the windows on that back facade. But since they've announced that the fairy tale theme is coming, and with it I assume lots of nice fountain and statue pieces, I'm actually going to hold on for that now until we can do a bit more work on it. Talking about holding on until themes return, let's go and check out Testudo, our pirate area. I wanted to challenge myself and kind of prove to myself that it was possible to build a pirate theme without the in-game pirate theme, and I feel like I've done a pretty good job. But then they announced that the pirate theme was coming, and why have a dog and bark yourself? So I'm going to be holding off on developing this area further until we've got those pieces. I actually think you can do quite a lot with the scenery pieces that are already in the game, but there's going to be things like cannons and treasure chests that are just going to be too tricky to try and make otherwise, especially for what will eventually become the dark ride portion of this water coaster. Those of you who recognise it will see this as looking similar to an area of Efteling, and what I really wanted to try and take away from that was the idea that this was a port town that perhaps pirates had taken over, rather than a pirate sort of shanty village that the pirate theme in the original game lends itself to. I didn't want this to be an area that smacks you around the head with its pirate theming. Instead, I wanted just to give the idea of a port town with some sort of pirate elements, using the ships here to make some of the roof pieces. What helps is Alex's incredible soundtrack. You're listening to Beyond the Tide, the theme for Testudo in Meanderville. This facade building and this little crepe quick service restaurants will eventually become the edge of what will be a large show building that this ride will fit in. Again, I'm going to hold off until I've got some pirate scenery just to help make some of these scenes a little bit more piratey with some ease, and then eventually the drop and run round into the splashdown will be outside, and this will all be sort of foliaged and rock worked in. This isn't the plan for where this area sits, but with the awesome selection tools in Planet Coaster 2 where you can move path around and everything, there's no harm in dropping it down and sort of laying it out a little bit, and I can literally pick up all of this, including the ride and the path, and then place it down something more permanent once I've decided where it's going to go. But this is only one of 5 themes that Meanderville is going to have. It's most fleshed out so far, but I do have a couple of other bits I can show you for some of the others. Next up is Zephyrberg, a steampunk / arcane punk style area that I originally built. This was the first thing I actually built for Meanderville. Those of you who follow me on social media or see me in Bronation will have seen this building almost 6 months ago now, I guess. I kind of wanted to do a building like this for each of the themes as a bit of a palette to really get a feel for how it's going to play out. But after building this, I hit a little bit of a wall with it and instead started working on the park proper. Luckily, I can be inspired by incredible music. Again, Alex has already done a theme for this area, Zephyr Rising. All of the tracks that Alex has worked on are available on the YouTube channel and also DistroKid. There are links to them in the description of this video. Next up is the Underborough. This is going to be my children / family area, and I really wanted to test myself to see if I could do a family area and kids rides that wasn't incredibly garish and bright. I'm going to be taking a lot of inspiration, as you can probably tell, from Hobbiton and other fantasy settings such as Redwall. This will be a tranquil village where animals live in harmony with nature. I had a lot of trouble with this roof. I don't hate how it looks right now, but it still isn't quite where it wants to be. Again, this is very much a proof of concept. It'll probably be a little while till we come back to this area. I'm also planning a desert / eastern area called Caladin and a spooky area based around a fire festival called Embercrest. but we'll have to wait a little longer to see those. With both the conservatory, restaurant and the bakery you just saw, I've started using an inwards out approach for building interiors. I don't necessarily plan on doing interiors throughout the park, but I do feel like if you're going to do them anywhere, the main street is a great place to do them. And now we have restaurants, really lends itself to working on some of them. Inwards out meaning that you build the interior first, then put a box around it and theme that box as the exterior. Making sure you don't clip inside it as you put stuff on the exterior, it's a really great way of building buildings that have interiors. Saying that, here's how not to do it. In episode 1, we built the Phases gift shop and it was just a facade. I used light up signs to make the windows, but they've recently announced in update 6 that we're going to get gift shops, similar to the Planet Zoo ones, where you can place down a counter and then shelves that the guests can interact with. And if we're going to have a gift shop on the main street, it would be silly not to have it usable. So we're going to try and retrofit the inside to make this work. This was a lot of work. The camera often gets in the way. There's a lot of pieces just sort of sticking in the place where I didn't really care what it looked like from the inside. So whilst I'm glad I've done this and opened up a sort of blank canvas ready for the gift shops when they come out at the end of June, I wouldn't recommend building this way at all. If you are planning to do an interior, definitely do it first and then work on the exterior afterwards. It makes things much, much easier. Been a few months since the last episode of MeanderVille. I haven't been working in here solidly since then. It's very much been on and off when I feel like I get some inspiration. But honestly, I built the majority of what I've shown you today in the last few weeks. The game is in a much better place now than it was at release, with updates 4 and 5 really getting it to where I think it should be, and update 6 at time of recording coming very soon, which again continues to look incredibly promising. And whilst I am trying to increase my Planet Coaster 2 content regularity, finishing off Planquatica and working in Saving Storybook, and perhaps just some one-off builds here and there, I really want MeanderVille to continue to be a labour of love that means an episode comes out when it's ready and I feel like I have something to talk about. And for that reason, MeanderVille is funded in part by you at patreon.com/geekism. You can head over there to become a Meanderthal and support this series in a way that focuses on the content and not on the ad revenue. The conservatory build was teased there over in March, so you can head there to get sneaky peeks of what's coming next. And I've also updated the path of the main street. A few people said it was a little too orangey for crows, so we've brought it down into a more manageable asphalt. Still not completely happy with it, but with this style I am going to be able to implement some sort of name system similar to how Epcot has a lot of names as you enter. I'm sure lots of other parks do it as well. So I will be adding Patreon's names to this area as you walk in. That's just a little way to show my thanks for your support. In the next episode, I'm sure we'll add a gift shop to Phases and finally decide where the pirate area is going to go, and using some of that pirate theming to work on our first ride proper, the indoor section of that water coaster. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you've enjoyed it. Love you all to bits. Until the next one, be good.